today?
All right.
What's up, guys?
Good morning. This week, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act Conference Committee will continue their work to deliver more jobs, fairer taxes, and bigger paychecks to the American people. We're holding a public hearing on Wednesday, and I suspect over the next few days we'll continue to hear the scare tactics, the hysteric rhetoric from the defenders of the status quo. Outlandish statements like, tax reform is Armageddon, bad for women, and people will die. It's really getting ridiculous. And it's misleading the American people who will be the ones who gain from this plan. Here are the facts. We are doubling the standard deduction so people can take home more of their paycheck. Under our plan, the average family of four in America will see a tax cut of $1,182. And we're making it easier for everyone to file their taxes. All of these priorities will put more money in people's pockets, allow them to save and invest for their retirement, pay for their mortgage, plan a vacation, spend more money of their own as they would like. People like 21-year-old Blake Pyron. So he's a young entrepreneur. After graduating from high school, he rolled up his sleeves and started a new business. It's called Blake's Snow Shack. It's a snow cone business. He's living his dream. And like my son, he has Down syndrome. With able to work, Blake will be able to save more of his own money in order to live independent and a more full life, a fuller life. Not only does our plan expand ABLE accounts for people with disabilities to explore the workforce, it's also opening up the opportunities for everyone, no matter their background, to start their own businesses and invest in their communities. For people like Blake, this is why tax reform is so important. From the very beginning, our goal has been to improve people's lives. Now, you hear the defenders of the status quo using these scare tactics to suggest otherwise. I just encourage you to go visit fairandsimple.gop. You can get all the facts and the details of this proposal. Also pleased that Representative Darin LaHood from Illinois has joined us today. He's been one of our leading voices on tax reform and the impact that it will have on his district, bringing back jobs to central Illinois, as well as making sure that businesses in America are more competitive.
Well, thank you, Cathy. And Darin LaHood, 18th District of Illinois, Peoria, Illinois is my hometown. Couldn't be happier to be here today with our leadership in support of tax reform. We head into a very important week here. When I think about the district I represent in central and west central Illinois, I think about the farmers, the small business, but more importantly, the middle class that's going to benefit from comprehensive tax reform. You know, you think about the country, 50% of our country lives paycheck to paycheck. And what our tax reform will do will put more money into the paychecks of those people in central and west central Illinois, more money to save up for their kids' education, more money to invest in a small business, more money to buy a new car or to save up for a mortgage to buy a home. That's what it will do in central and west central Illinois, comprehensive tax reform. And so when we look at this bill, the rhetoric on the Democrat side will tell you that, you know, this is going to hurt the middle class. That is the complete opposite when it comes to my district. 95% of the people that live in my district are going to benefit from this. And we also have to think about how this is going to get the economy roaring again. We need a healthy, robust economy. And whether you're a corporation like Caterpillar or John Deere or ADM or State Farm in my district, or you're a Main Street business in Peoria, Illinois, or a farmer, you're going to benefit. And this tax reform bill is going to do that. And so I commend our leadership and our House Republicans for bringing this forth. I wish we had more Democrats on this. If you go back and look in 1986 when this was passed, the people supported it. John Kerry supported it. Al Gore supported it. Joe Biden supported it. Many of the things we're doing in this bill is exactly what we did then, and this shouldn't be a partisan issue. This will help the middle class. And the last thing I will tell you, there's an expression, does it play in Peoria? This tax bill plays in Peoria. And more importantly, this will get the economy going and help the middle class. Thank you very much.
Great job, Darin. If it plays in Peoria, you know it's a great bill. I want to share with you some polling data. Gallup asked the American people, do you think the tax bill will increase or decrease your taxes? 18% of Americans thought it would decrease their taxes. 41% of the American people thought the tax bill would increase their taxes. I'm not talking about this tax bill. That poll was taken in September of 1986, just weeks before the historic Reagan tax cuts. And of course, we all saw just how dramatic and how successful that bill was at growing the middle class, at actually putting more money back in the pockets of hardworking families. So whatever the polling data is that's out there today, doesn't recognize just how powerful this bill is going to be to put more money in the pockets of hardworking families, to help us rebuild our middle class, to help those small startup businesses finally be able to grow and hire more people and give more opportunities to people who have felt like this economy wasn't working for them for the last 8 years when you saw slow economic growth. We don't have to sit back and take it. We're not going to take it. In fact, this tax cut bill finally reverses that trend of slow growth. It finally reverses the trend of watching people struggle because they can't see their wages increase. The reverse is going to happen. Estimates are under this bill, families are going to get about $1,200 more back in their pockets in tax cuts. And what does that mean for families? Well, the average family right now has about $400 in their checking account. So $1,200 more per year per family is a lot of money and a lot more opportunities for people to go on a vacation, to expand their home, to do more things that they want to do that they haven't been able to do under a slow economy. In addition to that, estimates show that under this tax cut and jobs bill, you're going to see wage growth on average $2,500 per year per family. So you're talking about real money back in the pockets of hardworking families and real wage growth that we haven't seen in years. This is a great bill for the middle class. It's going to be historic for Congress. Again, it's been 1986 was the last time that we had this kind of real tax relief and reform, so simplified that over 90% of American families will actually be able to do their taxes on a postcard. Let's get this bill passed. We're at the 1 yard line. Let's go push it in.
Go Badgers.
Go Tigers.
Thank you, Steve. Now, we're making great strides on our Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And every phase that we move forward, the market sets a new record. Every time the market goes up, America becomes a little wealthier in their 401ks. When we get to the final bill and signed, I want every American to check their check come February, to see that their take-home is greater than it was before. That is why, when Steve told you some of the polling, that the American public didn't believe back in 1986 that it would achieve everything that it was about to achieve. Now, there is some polling on this bill. In November morning Consult Politico, polls showed that 60% of voters support increasing the child tax credit. It also said 59% say they support doubling the standard deduction for a couple from $12,000 to $24,000. 59% support lowering tax rates on small businesses to 25%. Small businesses create more jobs than any other entity in America. I created my first one when I was 20 years old. The entrepreneurship of this country is the driver of jobs. That's what this bill will do. Lift everyone up as we go forward. So I want to commend and I want to thank the conference committee for their work. I know they're scheduled to meet tomorrow. We look forward to scheduling this bill after they're done with their work, posting it, giving it the appropriate time so everyone can read it, and pass it, sending it to the president's desk.
First, I want to commend the responders in New York City yesterday, the first responders, following what is clearly an apparent terrorist attack there. I think this incident just reminds each and every one of us how we have to just be unceasingly vigilant, just as citizens. We need to protect America from this radical Islamic terrorist attack that we seem to experience. We just want the people of New York to know that we're with them. Now, we are entering another huge week for tax reform. As was mentioned, we named the conferees last week on our Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, chaired by Chairman Kevin Brady. This week, the House and Senate conferees are reconciling those two bills. The committee will hold an important meeting tomorrow to work toward a final package to cut taxes and to simplify the tax code for the American people. This tax reform legislation is monumental. It's going to help American families at every income level. It's going to raise wages. It's going to create jobs right here in America. People will get to keep more of their own hard-earned dollars. This is so welcomed as a reform. This is what gets our confident economy restored. I cannot stress this enough. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity, not just to fix the broken tax code, not just to jumpstart the economy, but to truly restore hope, confidence, and opportunity in America. That's why we're here. That's what this is about. Tax reform is what people need right now, and I am so thrilled that we are so close to the finish line. We're going to keep at it so we can deliver real tax relief before Christmas. Questions? Christina.
Do you agree with the Treasury Department's analysis that the tax bill would raise $1.8 trillion in revenue? And do you agree with their assumption that welfare reform, regulatory relief, and infrastructure would occur in their growth estimate?
Well, I think that estimate makes a lot of sense. I think you're going to see a wide variety, but I do think we're going to have a big positive dynamic effect. Look, there's going to be an unlocking effect here with expensing, with lower rates, going to a territorial system, with the repatriation of dollars. All of those things are going to mean bigger paychecks, more competitive companies, faster economic growth. So I do believe the Treasury, when they say that this is going to unleash a lot of economic growth, which will accrue more revenues. I think it's important that every administration does this, just so you know, that they put into their plans what their plans are. And so that when we're talking about welfare reform and regulatory relief, those are things that we're in the middle of doing. You have to understand the way we think that we can do the most good for this economy in this time is regulatory relief. We're well on our way. That's a hidden tax on businesses. Tax reform, the most important thing we can do. But then we're going to have a people problem. And what I mean when I say that is workers are going to need workers. Employers are going to need workers. And that's something we have to get right on top of. That's why we already passed career and technical education reform. That's why we want to smooth the path from welfare to work so that we're not trapping people in poverty. These are the kinds of things that we're going to need to address next year so that when we have a fast-growing economy, we have jobs being created, we want to pull people out of poverty, pull people out of welfare, get them the skills they need so they can get opportunities. That's all going to help grow the economy. And so it's perfectly appropriate that the administration looks at that when they make their assessments on economic growth.
Even though it's 3 times more what JCT?
Yeah, so JCT, look, I was the chair of the committee which runs Ways and Means oversees JCT, and I was chair of Ways and Means when we had bought those 3 models, the MEG, the OLG, and the stochastic model. Without getting too wonky in this, JCT usually runs all models and gives you a fan chart of ranges. They gave us what I would call the low range. It's still positive, but I think that there are other models that I think are more reflective of reality that respect the fact that we have capital that flows globally. And I think those models are more reflective of how the world actually works. And those models show us we'll have a more positive revenue feedback effect. Right there, Erica. Sorry.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to ask about the claims that this tax cut, the corporate tax cut, will translate into higher wages. There have been a number of executives on earnings calls and other forums that have said that they would use this tax cut for stock buybacks, dividends for shareholders, et cetera. So what is the evidence that this will in fact increase?
I'd point you to the CEA study. I'd point you to Kevin Hassett's work. I'd point you to economists on the spectrum from the left and right, which really don't argue whether or not workers benefit from lower corporate tax rates through higher wages. The argument is just the extent of the benefit. Some studies say as much as 75% of the benefit accrues to workers. So we know for a fact that the studies show us you lower the corporate tax rates, workers benefit through higher wages, more competition for their labor, which gets us higher wages, higher productivity, and more jobs. But the other point I'd say is, think about if we don't do this. That's the analysis that I think people don't look at. Think about if we don't do this and we keep the highest corporate tax rate in the industrialized world, we will have more inversions. We will have more companies leaving U.S. shores like Johnson Controls in Milwaukee and going overseas and putting their headquarters in other countries. We will see more jobs going overseas. We will see a continued incentive to say, don't make it in America, make it overseas, and re-import it back into America. By doing tax reform, we're ending that incentive and we're reversing it, saying, keep your jobs in America, make things in America. And by combining the expensing provision that we have, full expensing, along with a lower tax rate and the ability to repatriate, we're giving incentives to companies like Caterpillar and Peoria to say, put it in your plant, put it in your factory, put it in your workers. And so we're convinced it's the right economic mix. And that's why we're confident this is going to clearly help workers, but it's also going to help keep companies and jobs in America. You blurted. You're blurted. Sorry. Yeah.
An update on where you guys are with the
Then I'll go back.
and where it's going to be, and what's still on the table? Is the DACA fix still on the table?
No, the DACA is separate. That's a separate issue. Look, we passed our CR. You got to remember the House. We did our work. We passed all 12 appropriation bills before the June 30th deadline. The Senate hasn't passed a single appropriation bill. So there's a bit of frustration here. So after tax reform, our plan is to send an appropriation bill over to the Senate so they can start dealing with appropriations. So that's what we're going to do then. We're going to put together a bill that reflects our priorities and send that over to the Senate after tax reform. Go ahead, last question.
What's the thinking behind eliminating the tax-free bonds for affordable housing development? Developers say the economics of that industry don't work.
I'm not going to go into the negotiations that are ongoing between the conferees. If you'll notice, the House blueprint, the House bill retained what we call the LIHTC, Low-Income Housing Tax Credit, which is a fantastic enabler of private sector money going into serving a public good like low-income housing. So that, as you can see, was one of the preferences that we maintained because we think that's a really effective tool at building housing stock for low-income Americans. But as to these other particular issues, that's something that the conferees are going to wrestle with. There are a million provisions in the code that they're going through, and I'm not going to prejudge where they're going to end up. Thank you.